The morning sun spilled lazily through the blinds of the Thompson household, casting soft stripes across the kitchen island where 12-year-old Ethan sat, spooning neon-orange cereal into his mouth. The milk in his bowl was turning a sickly tan, and the hum of the fridge was the only sound breaking the stillness. His father, Daniel, a grizzled veteran with hands calloused from years of service, tinkered outside with the backyard gate, the clink of metal faint but steady. It was a Saturday like any other in their quiet Willow Creek neighborhood until it wasn't. A sound, sharp and wrong, shattered the calm. Not a tool dropping, not thunder, but a violent crack followed by a roar. The front window exploded inward, glass scattering across the floor like jagged confetti. Ethan flinched, his spoon clattering to the counter, cereal forgotten. 3 men in tactical vests stormed through the wreckage, shouting, "HOA enforcement, stand down!" No badges, no police markings, just black gloves, military boots, and a flimsy sheet of paper one of them waved like a battle flag. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. Robbers? No, robbers didn't announce themselves. Daniel burst in from the yard, hands raised, voice booming. "What the hell is this? This is my home!" The men didn't pause. One seized Daniel's arm, twisting him to the floor with a thud that shook Ethan's core. Another barked about fence code violations, unauthorized modifications, words that meant nothing to a kid watching his dad struggle to breathe, pinned like an animal. Ethan's instincts screamed to hide, but something fiercer ignited inside him, a spark catching on dry tinder. He bolted for the den, bare feet slapping the hardwood, heart pounding like war drums. The gear cabinet stood open from the night before, when Daniel had cleaned it, lecturing Ethan on safety, respect, responsibility. Those words echoed as Ethan's trembling hands closed around the AR-15. It was heavier than he'd imagined, cold and unyielding. He didn't load it, didn't aim it, just carried it back to the levying room, stepping over glass and spilled cereal. "Get off him now," he said, voice cracking but loud enough to slice through the chaos. The room froze. The men stopped shouting. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood, not as a threat but as a shield, a 12-year-old in rocket ship pajamas daring to draw a line. For 17 agonizing minutes, the world hung in that tense silence. The HOA enforcers hired muscle, not cops, stood by the door, their bravado fading, hands hovering cautiously. Daniel, propped against the wall, shirt torn, a bloody scrape trailing from his temple, watched his son with eyes that held both pride and pain. Ethan clutched the rifle, barrel down, fingers clear of the trigger, every safety rule burned into his memory. Sirens finally wailed, and blue-red lights danced across the shattered room. "Drop the weapon!" officers shouted as they stormed in. Ethan didn't flinch, didn't argue, just let the rifle slip to the floor with a soft clang and raised his hands. An officer guided him outside while another cuffed Daniel, who was still dazed, trying to explain. The neighborhood had gathered, phones out, some streaming live. "They just brought the dad out," one woman narrated, breathless. "And the kid? That's him, the one with the gun. He's so small." Ethan sat in a squad car, door locked, watching cameras flash and neighbors gawk. His popsicle GIVing neighbor shook her head, filming. No one asked if he was okay. By nightfall, the internet had already twisted the story. Clips of Ethan, barefoot, holding the AR-15, went viral, stitched into reaction videos with dramatic filters and captions screaming, "The gun kid." Some called him a symbol of American grit, others, a reckless danger. Headlines ignored the HOA's unlawful raid, the shattered window, the fact that Ethan never aimed or threatened, just said stop. Cable news debated whether he was freedom or failure, while Ethan, now a pariah, stopped going to school. The school claimed it was for safety, but the averted eyes of teachers and the PTA's emergency meeting told the truth. Classmates sent mixed messages. "You're a hero, man," or "Why'd you need a gun, freak?" Ethan retreated to his room, hoodie up, curtains drawn, his Minecraft server silent. His mom, Laura, divorced from Daniel, filed for emergency custody, citing reckless firearm exposure. She didn't ask what Ethan saw, what it felt like to choose between hiding and standing up. He didn't argue, just sat on his bed, knees to chest, longing for the mornings of chili and cartoons, when he was just a kid. Behind the chaos stood Marcus Reed, Willow Creek HOA president, a man who'd turned community rules into a scepter of control. 3 months earlier, he'd rewritten the HOA charter, banning, militarized, fences like Daniel's without a vote or notice. Citations followed, then fines, then the raid on the Thompsons. Reed, with his Rolex and crisp suits, stood at a press conference, claiming compliance and regretting escalation, while dodging questions about his cousin's security firm or the lack of warrants. He thought the story would fade, but he hadn't counted on Sarah Brooks, a civil rights attorney who'd spent years dismantling rogue HOAs. She found the story in a Reddit thread titled, HOA Tyranny Gone Wild, and within hours was on a plane to Texas, cowboy boots clicking, a binder of EVY Denke in hand. Meeting Daniel in a dim holding cell, she cut through his distrust with blunt truth. You built a fence to keep your family safe. They broke the law, not you. Daniel glanced at Ethan, waiting in the hall, and nodded. The fight was on. Sarah filed a countersuit against Reed and the HOA, charging unlawful entry, assault, trauma, and defamation. Subpoenas followed, unearthing Reed's emails, policy changes, and a damning memo. Make an example of Thompson. His PTSD bunker VYB ruins our aesthetic. She launched the HOA Not the Law, a campaign that exploded online, fueled by veterans, parents, and HOA reform groups. Ethan, reluctant but resolute, gave one interview YEW. I didn't want to hurt anyone, he said, voice small. I just wanted them to stop hurting my dad. That clip spread faster than the VY Rao VY Deos, shifting the narrative. At school, a classmate's quiet, "Sorry, you were right," broke Ethan's isolation. The courtroom was packed, neighbors, reporters, even Ethan's classmates clutching notebooks. Daniel sat tense. Reed's smirk faltered. Sarah's opening was razor-sharp, witnesses exposing Reed's unchecked power. When Ethan took the stand, his trembling hands and halting words recounting the window, the fear, his dad on the floor silenced the room. I just wanted them to stop, he repeated, tears falling but voice steady. Then Sarah dropped the memo, reading Reed's words aloud. Gasps erupted. Reed's lawyer paled. The judge, eyebrows raised, verified the EVY Denke and slammed his gavel. I've heard enough. The verdict was swift. The HOA's actions were unlawful. Reed fined due law $100,000 and ousted, his firm's license revoked. Daniel's charges were dropped, Laura's custody petition dismissed. In the hallway, Laura hugged Ethan, whispering to Daniel, I know now he was safe with you. Outside, Ethan stood tall beside his dad, cameras flashing but no longer hiding. 6 months later, the fence stood, now legally protected. Ethan was back in school, quieter but unbowed, the stares fading. He and Daniel grilled on Sundays, planted tomatoes, and started a podcast, Backyard Freedom. In their first episode, Ethan spoke, voice deeper, settled. They thought we were the threat, but the real danger was thinking they could take everything without a fight. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was heavy with meaning. Ethan wasn't a rebel or a legend. He was a kid who stood up, and in doing so, reminded the world that bravery doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's a shaky voice and small shoes, standing firm like a fence in the dirt.